Hi, it's Greg Hurrell here with another Vim screencast, and it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I'm ready to get back into it, and I thought that I would talk about settings. And the reason why I've been thinking about settings is because Vim 8 came out in this interval, and it's got a few new settings. So let's find those. Yeah, so here's a list of settings that have been added since Vim 8. Some of these have actually been available for a while. So if you've been building Vim from source, one common way to do that is with Homebrew. When you build Vim from Homebrew, you tend to get a pretty recent version near the head of master. And a lot of this stuff actually landed on the master branch long before Vim 8 came out. Because the way Vim development works is it's pretty much done on the trunk, the master branch, and at some point Bram just says, okay, this is the new version. But yeah, a lot of this stuff has actually been in for a while. But I'm going to show you a couple of these settings that were recently added and I've started using, and use that as a kind of launch pad to talk about other settings as well in my .files. But I would recommend that if you want to know anything more about Vim, go to the version 8.txt help document where you can get a big long list. This is like 14,000 lines long, which seems possibly long, right, because it's a list of all the patches that were in there as well. Okay, so let's go and look at the settings here. Now, in general, I would encourage you to look at other people's .files to find out what kind of settings are out there, because these things tend not to be that discoverable. One thing I do with my own .files is, because the name isn't always necessarily that revealing of what the thing does, I put a comment on every line saying what it does. And that's a fairly common practice, or at least it's not a rare practice. So if you look around on GitHub at people's .files, it's quite easy to stumble across things that are pretty useful. So I'm going to go through this whole file, not all in this screencast, because there's enough in here, about 200 lines of stuff. I don't want it to be super long. But just to begin with, I'm going to show you the two settings that I just added, because they come with Vim 8, and they are this break indent opt option. To begin with, I'll show you what that does. Basically, it's possible to set up Vim here. I'm going to make this nice and narrow over here so that things wrap. It's possible to set up Vim such that when things wrap, it'll actually break onto the next line and show this little continuation character here, which is customizable. What break indent opt does is inset those indented lines just to make them a little more obvious. So that's subtle, but I'm effectively setting it to add 2 extra spaces over here. You can see what it would look like without this setting. Really, set break indent opt shift. There we go. So that's what it would normally look like, and now you can make it look like that, which makes it look a little more obvious. So that's a small thing. And notice that I've got it gated behind an if exists check here. It's a good idea whenever you're adding a new setting to gate it in some way such that your .files will continue to work with older Vim as well. So some of that is done with if exists. Here, the ampersand basically means does a setting with this name exist. But you can also use has for features. Features are the things that are visible in the version output. So if it has folding, you'll see here it's got plus folding, the feature's been compiled in. You can learn more about both of those in help. So there's help for has, and there's also help for exists. And you can see there's a few different ways you can check for existence that involves options, function names, etc. Using different prefixes there. So that's break indent opt. The other one that's new, not visual bell, which I've had set like that for a while ago to get rid of the annoying beeps, but there's another bell setting which is bell off. There it is. It's now possible to just turn off all bells. And I don't like bells, so I'm happy to see that option added. Alright, so that's all I'm going to look at in this screencast. I'm going to break here and keep going, show you some of the other stuff in this file. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this useful.